Hi, I'm Jeff Corwin. Thank you all for coming. A difficult subject matter, but I appreciate everyone being here. And let's start walking through, and if you have any questions, I'll answer them. So let's go through. So this project started about almost 10 years ago, maybe 10 years ago, after Sandy Hook. And I had come across some guns that my father had and had stored for a really long time. And then after that incident at Sandy Hook, I decided to do something with the guns. This isn't one of them, but it's been 10 years now and I'm still working on it. This is one of the original guns that my father had, is his Derringer. And all the shots have props that I either build or find or have other people build for me. And I did cut the head off that baby. And this is one of the more recent ones with the puppet. So all of these are built in the studio. I find props in antique stores, junkyards, and then put these together sometimes in a studio, sometimes in my kitchen, like that one. And yeah. Lighting is a huge part of what I do. The sets are built, and then I spend days with small lights, putting little points of light to accent what I want to have pop out.
That's a particularly harsh one behind you.
Yeah. That's actually me. Let's see.
Is that right?
Well, anybody or any human element in here is me. So if there's a hand or a body part,
Okay.
someone hidden under a flag, that's me. I actually shot that in my shower.
Wow.
Oh, just got me in the reflection.
This is me under the flag. I was telling somebody that was here earlier that my camera that I use for all of this work doesn't have a self-timer, so I had to put a cable release in my mouth and then chomp down on it with my teeth to get to take the photo. So I first found this baby doll, and then I found someone on Etsy, and she made caskets for a living. And I asked her to make a casket specifically for that, with a cross on the outside, the red velvet on the inside. And you can get anything you want on Etsy. And I just shot that on the floor of my studio. I put a flag down, I put leaves on the flag.
Did you actually put the stitches in your hands for this, or were those drawn?
So some I did and some I did in Photoshop. My hands are just rough anyway. I try not to use Photoshop for compositing. So very few of these have that kind of work done.
Mm-hmm.
I like to get as much as I can in the camera on, yeah, so I don't mess with it. This is probably the only one that is fully composited. So I shot the doll by itself, I shot the bullet by itself, I shot the gun by itself, and then I put them all together. No,
Oh, it is a baby doll on the cover.
it's the one with the head chopped off.
Is it? Go that way?
That's on the cover of a book. It was just released a few months ago. This is also one of the few that has images of somebody that committed the crime. And I don't usually show faces of people to recognize them. Certainly don't mention their names, but this one, all three of those men were shooters. This is something I just did in the last couple of months. Again, it's amazing what you can find on Etsy. All those shell casings, and I had the pie baked by a baker in my closest town, Three Forks. And I sprayed the blood on it. This is one of the originals from almost 10 years ago. And that's one of my father's guns. I love wallpaper, so I try to incorporate wallpaper wherever I can, but I got that wallpaper online and slapped it up on the wall. I rented this from an antique store. That's one of my father's guns. I've been asked about the pictures of people in the photographs, and those are all just found in antique stores. There's only one photo here that has anybody in it that I know, and that's that one. And this is actually the most recent photograph I've done. That's my father, that's me, and that's my grandfather. That's Wayne LaPierre, NRA. This is one of my dad's guns. It's a Colt 45 from 1872, I think.
Jeff, how do you see that these relate to each other? I mean, aside from the very obvious.
I mean, like this photo to any of the others.
Right, like is there a continuum of message or?
Actually, there's one thing I'm trying to break as I have it, and that's using the same icons over and over again. You know, in the beginning I thought there had to be a gun, there had to be a bullet, there has to be an American flag, there has to be blood.
Oh.
And then I'm trying to stop that. But in the beginning, like this one, it
This
has,
is early.
yeah. This has the emergency surgical kit and the little child and an American flag and a gun and a dead looking guy. There's one that's not here that I finished within the last couple of months, and it's just a scale with a single bullet on it. And it's surrounded by plants. And the plants have no meaning, but they just looked, they were nice. They look good. And I'm trying to not have everything be
Grim.
yeah, grim, yeah. It can be just part of a nice photo.
Mm-hmm.
It can be aesthetic instead of every single thing having a meaning. Because I get a lot of questions like, well, what does this mean? Or what does that mean? And sometimes it doesn't really mean anything. It's just making a good photograph. I mean, I want the entire photograph to have meaning, but not every single element of it has to have meaning. So I'm trying to get more towards that.
One, the piece on this wall, Jeff, how did you get the lighting in that orb?
It's a rare use of a really soft source of light.
Oh, this one.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah. Is the light inside it?
No, so that's another
Yeah.
use of soft light, just a big umbrella up above.
Yeah.
And then 2 lights on the side that are creating this light. And then there's, I didn't need to, but I got a movie projector and that's just sitting behind it, shining right into the lens.
Hmm.
And then there's 2 different sources of light on the face and then light
Popcorn.
down. And light on the popcorn and light on the gun. And light on the background.
Yeah. It's cool because it's with the dark red, the juxtaposition of the light and the dark red in the back.
Mhm.
Yeah.
After a while, the gun's presence doesn't jump out at you.
Mm-hmm.
It just becomes like a chair, an armchair or something, some kind of furniture, in the room. It's not as, I don't know, it's not as shocking after you've seen a couple. But I like that about it.
Mm-hmm. Me too.
Does it take you a while to construct the set before you take the picture?
Yeah, most of these take anywhere between 3 to 4 weeks from concept to feeling like, okay, I've got it. So I'll think of an idea and then I'll go out and get all the props and then I'll start setting it up and it changes over time. And
Do you take several shots along the way, I take it, before you come up with?
oh yeah. Yeah, I was just gonna say, I spend a lot of time lighting and the lighting changes throughout. And yeah, I'm shooting as I go. And I shoot tethered, so I don't know so my camera is connected to my computer and I can see what I'm doing as I go. And so if that's, position, something isn't right, then I can tweak it. And I lay awake at night worrying about it. And then I get up the next day
Coming
and
up
it's
with
sitting
new
there. Yeah, and then, anywhere between 3 to 4 weeks later, I'm done. And sometimes when I think I'm done, I'll sleep on it for a night and just make sure. I'll shoot it, but then I'll get up the next morning and think, is this really done? And usually, at that point I say yes. I can't take it anymore. I fussed with these inside here so much, and if you lift this glass up, they all just collapse. So I learned that if I took a chopstick and I just barely lifted it up, I could kind of tweak it around a little bit.
Have you ever deconstructed something and then decided that you wanted to go back and tweak it and have to reconstruct it?
I don't know. Not to the point where I went back and did it. I think if I took it apart and all of that stuff was, down and my camera was put away, the lights are put away, which I make sure I do every single time. I don't leave anything up for the next one. I always put everything away. So no, I don't think so. I think once it's done, I just have to move on. Yes. And I'll show you This is a good example of that. A friend of mine was in town and we wanted to go to Livingston, Montana, and I knew there was an antique store that I really liked, but I didn't go there with the intention of getting anything. But I saw this gun without the cylinder in it, and I didn't know what I was going to do with it, but I thought, well, I'll get that. And so I bought that and sat on it for a few weeks and just left it out on the counter and then decided what I was going to do. And the same with that, actually. I had that metal, the yellow metal, for a long time before I did anything with it. And that's a good example of metal meaning absolutely nothing. I mean, there's no message to that whatsoever. It's just, it's pretty. I don't know if it was Freud or Groucho Marx or somebody like that. Sometimes a cigar is just a cigar. You know, there doesn't have to be a meaning behind every little tiny part of these. I think it was Groucho. What else? This is one of the originals from like 10 years ago. I just took a white sheet as a background and then medical gauze and used red paint to create the stripes. That's my hand. And then all those photographs are people that are just random. And I think part of the random part of the photographs, these kind of photographs, is that sometimes the shootings seem so random and the people that die aren't. You know, there's not a good reason for it. I mean, there's not a good reason for it at all, but I like the fact that these are not people that anybody recognizes or significant. I mean, they're significant, but not in a photographic way.
What is this in the heart? Is this part of the anatomy, or is that, am I seeing part of a gun, or what is that?
No, that whole thing I found in an antique store, and it was like $2,000, and she was nice enough just to let me use it. And when I saw it, the head was up there, and there's a plate that fit over that I took off that revealed the anatomy inside.
And what was it? I mean, for like a medical school, or what was its original?
I have no idea.
It's got reference numbers, so I'm surprised that it's part.
I just went to, I found that first, and then I went to Home Depot and found this faux looking tile thing. And it was, you know, it was like $10 or something, and I thought that's great. And I put the metal table in there, and it has a institutional feel.
Forensics, yeah.
This photo has been up at a gallery in Billings for a really long time. And the woman who owns the gallery called me not that long ago, and she goes, you know, I never noticed the flag in the photograph. It's like, oh my God, you've had that for like 2 years. Yeah. Any other questions?
Have you exhibited these together before?
Yes. Yeah, the show came from Helena Museum, the Holter Museum. And before that, I was at a gallery in Chicago, Dragonfly. And,
Peoria Art Center.
oh yes, Art Center in Peoria, Illinois. Except for the 3 that are brand new. So you have that one and 2 over there that are brand new, that weren't in part of the show before.
there some reason you had this clock set at 3 minutes to midnight?
Oh, I'm so glad you asked that. If you notice, all the clocks that are in all the photos are approaching midnight.
One of them is a minute to midnight.
That's right. Do you have a guess why? And it's appropriate that I'm telling this story here in Los Alamos.
Okay.
Okay.
Because
So
the
after,
Federation of American Scientists clock too, yeah.
what's that?
Federation of American Scientists clock has a minute to midnight on theirs now too.
Yes, it's called the Doomsday Clock.
Yeah.
And it was created by Einstein after the Oppenheimer-Einstein collaboration with the Chicago scientists. And after that period of time, they created this board of scientists that still exists today. They meet once a year. And they determine how close to the apocalypse we are by how close the time is to midnight. And sometimes it's been as far away as 17 minutes. And I learned just the other day, it was during George W. Bush's administration, but it's now at 90 seconds. So that's why all the clocks in the shot are close to midnight.
So this is an optimistic shot then?
Well, it could,
3 minutes to go.
yeah, but it could be way over here too. But then this one is a very recent shot I did this year, and that's
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
creeping up right on midnight.
Yeah, there's another one in the corner here that's.
I'm so glad you asked that.
Are you part of that society?
But you knew about the doomsday clock theory, okay?
But it's primarily nuclear, it's primarily because of atomic bombs, or do you think they're taking into account global
No.
warming and
Right.
pandemics and?
No, it was originally created because of the atomic bomb.
Yeah.
So after Hiroshima and Nagasaki, Einstein decided with the scientists from Chicago Institute to create this timeline, or this way of gauging the apocalypse. And now it's not because of just the bomb, it's because of everything else. And this year we got this close because of the war between Russia and Ukraine. So that's why we're so close to the midnight, as of this year. Thanks.